Reimagined Circle. Become a sponsor and be sure to mark your calendar now to attend our symposium in the Chicago area, October 19, 2024. Please join us in continuing to inspire women to age with curiosity, courage, and creativity.
And today we're excited to have in the studio Jackie Greenbaum. Jackie, 75, has lived in Trilogy, a 55-plus community in Brentwood, California, for 7 years with her husband. Jackie retired after 27 years as a business development manager and HR paralegal for Fisher Phillips, an employment law firm. After 14 years in Encinitas, California, they moved to Trilogy. And Jackie reached out to us because she wanted to share with all of you the reality of living in a 55-plus community, all the pros and cons, and how different the lifestyle is for her and for her husband. So, Jackie, welcome to Women Over 70. And
thank you.
We're just happy to have you here. And why don't you start by giving us a brief glimpse of your work background?
Okay, I will definitely do that because work has always been a real highlight of my life. I love to work. I have since I was probably got my job at 14 and have loved it ever since. When I went to college, when I was ready for college, my father said, okay, you've got 3 choices, or this is what women were told. You can be a nurse, a secretary, or a teacher. And my father said, well, I think you should choose teacher because teachers are home the same time as their kids are. So that was the rationale for choosing a career. Thank goodness nowadays girls have way more choices, and women do too. So although my father loved being a lawyer, he became a lawyer in Chicago before he was even old enough to pass the bar. That's how much he loved it. And never said a word to me about going into law. So after I got a teaching degree, and after a couple of years of teaching, it was pretty clear to me this was not my path. And it wasn't until much later that I decided that teaching was not going to work for me. So I went to Sawyer Business College because I wanted to figure out what else was out there. And they had a legal secretary program, which I just glommed right onto. I loved it. So fast forward, I was a legal secretary for, I think, about 12 years. And then during that time, I decided to go into the paralegal program. And that program going at night was about 3 years. And then I said, okay, but I want to go into human resources too. There was such a cornucopia of opportunities. And so I started into the HR program. And one of my professors, Jim McDonald, who was the managing partner of Fisher and Phillips in Orange County, was my professor. And he called me after the class and he said, boy, we'd really love to have you work here at Fisher Phillips. We're looking for a human resources paralegal. We don't even know yet, honestly, what they're going to do, but we kind of have a vision of what we want. So I interviewed with him and got the job immediately and was basically given almost a blank slate. I had one project, which was to prepare employee handbooks for our clients. And beyond that, they said, well, we're really not sure what we want you to do. So it became the opportunity of a lifetime. I wound up working with the biggest rainmaker in our firm. And he just kind of took me under his wings and taught me how to do business development. Mm-hmm. And so I spent probably the first half of my employment there doing the traditional paralegal work and then also doing business development. And the last 10 years was strictly business development. And I just loved it. I mean, he spotted that I had a knack for it. And he was so empowering. I think the best thing that can happen to anyone entering the workforce is to have a really dynamic mentor. And he just made me believe I could do anything. And I did. I achieved great heights, and it was a fabulous experience. So you can understand how it was pretty difficult when it was time to retire.
Right. So where did you go after you did retire? Or did you continue to work for Fisher Phillips part?
I did. So when I was leaving, I wasn't really mentally ready to retire. I still let's see, I was 68. I was thinking about it today. I was 68, and I had originally said I'd work to 70. But my husband had already retired, and he just was ready for something new. So when I gave my notice to my bosses, they were really disappointed, of course, and I was. And I said, well, what do you think about me keeping some of my projects and working part-time? Now, this was way before COVID, and it was way before people worked from home. If it had been now, they would have said, yeah, what's the difference where you're physically living?
Right.
So it was a bit of a stretch, but they let me keep my conferences, and I was also taking care of the HRCI credit and Sherman credit for all of our programs. And I had a nice little setup. I was only working 8 to 10 hours a week, and I was working from home, except once in a while I'd go into the San Francisco office. And it was very, very rewarding. And so I hung on to that as long as I could. But pretty soon it just became, the technology just became really overwhelming for me. And they didn't need anyone part-time. They really needed to have everybody on board full-time. Yeah. So that was a very, very difficult transition for me. And that was actually about a year and a half ago. So we were already in Trilogy. I was already very involved here. And I would say, thank goodness for Trilogy. I can't even imagine what it would have been like if I didn't have my support system here.
What made you decide to go to Trilogy initially?
My husband and I have some really good friends, Jerry and Lynn. Lynn, unfortunately, has passed since then. And we would come visit them. They moved to Trilogy about 3-4 years before we did. And we'd come here and visit them and saw what the lifestyle was like. And we kind of joke around about it. We go, oh yeah, that's not for us. It's like day camp. Meantime, I'm thinking, yeah, I kind of like day camp. I thought, but Sid would, he would never like that kind of lifestyle. But Jerry would tell him, oh, I went on a bike ride today with a bunch of guys, and then Lynn and I played golf, and then we played bocce ball, and he was always so busy. And I guess Sid started thinking about that, and we were on a walk by our house in Encinitas, and he said, I've been thinking about Trilogy. And I said, you're kidding me. I just figured that you would have absolutely no interest. And he said, oh, I was kind of thinking you wouldn't have any interest. So I said, okay, we got a match here. And so we didn't really research any other 55 plus communities because, of course, Jerry and Lynn had been here at least 4 or 5 years by that time. So they could tell us exactly what it was like.
Mm-hmm. And is a 55 plus community different from other? Well, you didn't research them, so you really didn't know. What did you know about this that attracted you?
Well, we always say we call it being off campus when we leave Trilogy, because it's its own insular world. When you're here. I think the thing that we liked about it was that we could have all these activities and have a lot of people to do them with. And for me, it's my happy place. It's like being at summer camp every day. I have my fitness classes in the morning. I have my activities with my friends. We have all kinds of clubs here. But I would say it's different than being a senior, even though I was never a senior not living in Trilogy. But from talking to my friends and seeing what's around, it's very different from being a senior in a regular setting. Because it's something. I'm sorry?
Living, how do you mean in a regular setting?
Well, just like you and Catherine, you live in a city, you have your friends, you have your activities, but you're not involved day to day, minute to minute by a group of people.
Yeah.
And for some people, I know it would be very claustrophobic. I mean, you can't go anywhere, barely out of your house, before you see all these people that you know, which can be absolutely fabulous or can be a little suffocating sometimes. But, you go to the mail, we have a group mailbox. So you go to the mailbox, you always see people and that warms my heart. I mean, I can't even count how many people every day who I consider really close friends.
Jackie, do you live are you in a house?
Yeah.
Or so these are homes that are right next to each other, or how is describe the setting?
Yeah, that's a very common question, because a lot of our friends asked us, oh, are you going to be in an apartment? Are you in a big building? It's all individual homes, and they're separated the same as you would see in any suburban area. So, just like any other area, we have a number of models. Ours is one of the smallest. It's about 1,900 square feet. And they go all the way up to 3,000 square feet, which to me would be way too much house for two people. But they're all individual homes. There's about 4 or 5 different models. And to me, it's still so amazing that one of my closest friends lives right across the street from me. One of my other closest friends lives half a block from me. And the furthest friend lives probably a mile. So it's like you're just surrounded with all your friends.
Uh-huh. And is that because you come together as a community frequently?
Yes.
Different from having friends outside that you make plans with and you go do something with.
Right, exactly. I mean, the company, we have a company called Blue Star that organizes all kinds of activities for us. So it's kind of like having a cruise director. So every day we get the daily digest. And then, of course, we have a calendar that shows us all the activities. So every day you get a list of, these are all the things going on today. Mm-hmm. When my friend Lynn showed me that initially, I just thought that was so amazing. I said, every day you have all these things going on to choose from. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, for some people, I think it would be overwhelming, but I'm fortunate because I love fitness classes. And so I met most of my very closest friends doing fitness classes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of cultural events do they bring into Trilogy?
That's a really good question. And that's where we have the advantage of being a BART ride away from San Francisco. And that was one of the factors that my husband was really attracted to, because he's always loved San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so we will get off campus, so to speak, several times a month, because all we have to do is go to BART, and it takes maybe an hour on the BART, or we can drive in, but we prefer to take BART. And one of the ladies who lives here was an HR director, and so she has this contact where she can get discounted prices for plays and concerts and all those kind of things. And so she sends us emails probably a couple times a month and says, if you're interested in going to this play, here's the link. And we all go on the same day because that's the day she got the discount.
Yeah.
So, and of course, San Francisco now, unfortunately, is struggling a lot, but there are many cultural events in San Francisco.
Sure. So what happens in Trilogy? Is this a place where as people need more care, it's a continuum?
No.
Okay.
No, it's strictly independent living.
Okay.
I'd say the average age, I would say, I think they say it's around 70 or maybe 69. Because we have new people. That's what I love about it. I mean, we have new people coming in that, I just laugh. These are the kids that are like 60. I mean, a couple of my friends that I'm thinking about right now, this one woman, Sid and I saw her at the store and I said hi and everything. And Sid said, where do you know her from? And I said, from Trilogy. He said, oh, I can't believe that. She's got blonde hair and just real vivacious looking. So it's not like we're stuck as my mother would have said, in an old folks home, which my mother was very, very opposed to. And, now I can understand because in those days, that's kind of what there was.
Do you have to think ahead to a time when you might need help that you wouldn't be able to stay there?
Yeah. I mean, if you need help, maybe there's one or two people who live here who might have hired in someone to take care of them. And there is an assisted living. There's a couple of assisted livings that are near here. But our long-term plan is, since our kids, 2 of our 3 kids are in Chicago, our long-term plan is when that time happens, hopefully a long time from now, we would move to Chicago and then we'd figure out. But many women, surprising to me, but many women stay here after their husband has passed, which I couldn't see myself at all living here alone. But there's like 200 and something single women. And many of them lived here with their husbands, and then their husband passed, and they have a wonderful support system for each other.
Is it different? Do each of you respond differently to the lifestyle that you have here? You and your husband, do each of you?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. He does partake in activities, not as much as I do. And probably, left to his own resources, we probably wouldn't socialize as much as we do. But I just thrive on that. This isn't real cultural, but I mean, recently we had a Neil Diamond impersonator or a singer who is great. We have an Elvis show coming up. We have a jazz concert coming up. And it's all inclusive, which is so nice. We pay, I think all of them are $65 a person, including dinner. And then the best part of it is we get all of our friends together and we reserve a table. And lately we've been doing a lot of those. Now, Sid kind of relies on me to set all this up. But every time we go out socially, he might say, oh, do we have anything else planned this week? And after we go up, he always says, wow, I really had a good time. And I really felt the warmth and the community within our friends.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, after having all these friends, if you had to be there alone, it seems like you would have a community to rely on.
Oh, yeah. From that standpoint, definitely. Yeah. I wouldn't want to take care of a house by myself.
Yeah. So how do you think about your own aging? Are you planning? Are you looking ahead? What are you thinking about you?
Well, that's a good question. And since when you originally posed it to me, I've done a lot of thinking about that. And I would say I don't think about aging very much because, thank God, I have really good health, and so does Sid. And we have a number of friends here and neighbors who were really struggling with health issues. And it's, we know that that's not only a possibility, but a probability that we're going to have those issues. But right now, I don't feel old. I think the hardest part of getting older to me is realizing, letting go of the fact that you had some dreams that aren't going to happen. You have situations in your life that you can't change. And you're not going to you probably won't have the wherewithal within your lifespan to change them. And you're in the final quarter or whatever it turns out to be, the final portion of your life. And, part of me is always saying, you need to take advantage of every minute because you don't know. I mean, nobody knows when it's going to be the last minute. And for me, staying relevant is really, really important. I mean, there's an argument to be made. Okay, I worked hard all these years. I raised my family. It's time for me to just vacation and forget about achieving and just, kind of coast on through. And that's not something that's going to work for me.
So what does staying relevant mean for you? What does that entail?
I have a really close friend who we talk about this all the time. It means working in some capacity, maybe not working for money, but after I kind of got over the initial shock of not working anymore, I thought about it a lot and I said, okay, so now I'm not going to just sit around and dwell on it. I'm going to start looking for volunteer opportunities. And that's something that my friend is actually 82. And the two of us just last week went to the junior college here it's actually in Pittsburgh. And we're going to be career coaching with the students. Now that for me volunteer work is very rewarding also, but I keep trying to increase the things that I do that are really meaningful for me, purposeful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to play cards and work out and, go to dinner if that's what works for them, but it's not what works for me.
I understand.
Yeah. Aren't you on a number of committees at,
Yes. Really the best thing that happened to me was when I first moved here, it was within the first week or two. I went to the fitness center and I met my friend Betsy, who has been my closest friend since I got here. And she liked working out. And I said to her, I just retired. And this is when I retired the first time. And I said, I'm just so worried about it. I just don't know how I'm going to keep busy. And she said, oh, don't worry about that. She said, I'm involved in WOW, which is the women's organization. And it involves all the women in Trilogy, which is about 1,000 women. And we plan events, four or five events every year. Matter of fact, tomorrow is our thrift store fashion show, where we all went to thrift stores and bought ourselves an outfit, and we're all going to we do a regular fashion show. So Betsy said, I'm going to get you involved in WOW. And before I knew it, within a week or two, she said, okay, I want you to be on the board. I want you to come with to the board meeting. And I was like, wow. I was like, man, that happens fast. Exactly what I'm looking for. And we've been going strong ever since. We've been co-presidents now for 4 years, although we through COVID and everything. And we're trying to get a succession plan, but it's not coming together real well because it's a big responsibility. But we have, at Trilogy, we have 60 clubs. So there cannot be an interest that you have that isn't covered by one of these clubs. Every card game you could think of, gardening club, wine club, olive making club, cooking club. And then, of course, we have pickleball, the famous pickleball we have. It's really, really huge here at Trilogy. And we have tennis players, and we have hikers and bikers and 3 different bike groups. I mean, you should have 3 or 4 book groups. I mean, anyone who has any interest. And then if you have an interest that isn't covered, all you have to do is start your own club. You just talk to the director of lifestyles and they'll say, okay, we'll set up a meeting and see who's interested. So that's really, and these clubs are run by members. So, we have our lifestyle group, they handle the big events, but like the fashion show, we handle within our ranks. So I've met so many women that way. And the nice thing is there's new women coming in all the time, and new women that are in the same position I was in when I retired. And they're thinking, wow, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah. It's a great way to not have to worry about it and just have all these options.
Right. It's all built in for us. If you take advantage. I mean, there's some people that don't take advantage.
Sure.
But that's up to them.
So is there a third act for you?
Yeah, there is a third act for me. And I finally identified it. I started thinking about coaching. And my friend who I was talking about, Gail, she and her husband are performance coaches. And so she's talked to me a lot about it. And I coached attorneys in my job at Fisher Phillips. So I started getting interested in that, and I did a little research on, where can I take a coaching program? And I didn't know what type of coaching I was interested in. So there were a number that were very attractive, but a lot more expensive than I wanted to invest in, unless I knew for sure I was going to do it. So I found one that was $139 and online, completely online. Not exactly what I would have wanted, but it gave me some focus. And now I'm focused in a little bit more on this career coaching. So that's one of the things that we're wanting to do at the college. We also have a women's shelter here in Brentwood, which I have a very strong commitment to helping women who've been exposed to domestic violence, and some of these women with drugs. And I'm actually going over there this week on Thursday to teach a resume writing and interviewing class. I did it once before, and the ladies were so responsive. I mean, they just wanted more. And so I'm hoping to make it a monthly class. So it all kind of ties in together.
I see the threads of your life continuing, just in a different context. Yeah, really nice. Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad to have you talk about the 55 plus community and your experiences of living, because as you know, people have very different views, misconceptions, I think, often about what that is like. So
yeah,
ready to sign up.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time. And like I said, the first time we came to visit Jerry and Lynn, Jerry was showing off the clubhouse. So he walks us into the clubhouse, and there were various people in there, some reading the newspaper, some chit-chatting, having coffee. And Jerry walks through and everybody goes, "Hey, Jerry, hi, how are you doing? What's going on?" And I was like, wow, this is weird. This is like the Stepford Wives, you know? Don't these people have anything better to do than sit around and read the newspaper? But that's really how it is. I mean, in the restaurant living room area, you might say, they have free coffee set up in the morning. And so it gives you a place. You want to meet someone. It's easy to say, "Oh, why don't you meet me for coffee, at the clubhouse?"
Yeah.
So it's just a real camping experience.
It sounds like it.
And I'm so
Better than camp.
well. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
We're happy to interview. Yes, thank you.
I encourage people to at least try it. If it isn't for you, that's fine, because there's so many different types of things people want to do in their aging years.
Yes.
But I think for people who are really social and really like that feeling of belonging, it's a great concept, whoever thought it up.
That's great. Well, thank you
for sharing it with us.
And listeners, because of your loyalty, our numbers continue to grow. Still, we need your support. So visit womenover70.com, join Aging Reimagined Circle, or make a donation, and let your voice be heard and help change the conversation about women aging.